4 distinct integers are chosen randomly and without replacement from the first 12 positive integers. X is the random variable representing the second smallest of the 4 selected, and little p is the probability function of X. Determine P of X where X equals 2, 3 up to 10. And the reason why X goes from 2, 3 up to 10 instead of 1 through 12, because the 4 integers are chosen from the first 12, is that X is the second smallest of the 4. So if X is the second smallest of the 4, then no matter which of the 4 integers you choose, since X must have one integer smaller than it, because X is the second smallest, and X should have 2 integers larger than it out of the 4 that you choose. So we can never have 2 integers that are larger than 11 or 12, because no integer is larger than 12 and only one integer is larger than 11. So 11 and 12, X cannot be 11 or 12, because X has to have 2 integers larger than it in order to be the second smallest of the 4. So that's why here X goes, 11 and 12 are not included. And similarly, since X is the second smallest, X has to have one integer that is smaller than it. So that's why X cannot be 1, because there is no integer smaller than 1. So the minimum X can be is 2. So that's why we're just talking about 2 through 10 over here. Okay. So now this is a situation. Let's say that, so we agree that X goes from 2 through 10. So here I'm just listing 2 through 5, because that's enough to see the pattern of what's going on. So when X is 2, the larger integers than 2 are 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 12, and these are 10 total. And similarly, when X is 3, then the larger integers are 4, 5, 6, up to 12. These are 9 total, and so on. So now, since we figured out that we are looking for 2 integers larger than X, when X is the second smallest, and there are 2 integers larger than X. So the number of ways of selecting 2 integers larger than 2 in this first row, X is 2, and there are 10 integers available which are larger than 2, and the number of ways of selecting 2 out of those 10 integers is 10 combination 2. Similarly, in the second row, the number of ways of selecting 2 integers larger than 3 will be 9 combination 2, because now there are 9 integers available that are larger than 3, and you have to choose 2 of them. Similarly, in the third row, there are 8 integers available which are larger than 4, and we have to choose 2 of those 8 integers, so 8C2 ways. And now the smaller integers. So when X is 2, the only smaller integer is 1, and there's only one way of selecting one smaller integer. Remember, we are looking for 2 larger integers and 1 smaller integer. So since only one integer is available that is smaller than 2, so there's only one way of getting one integer smaller than 2. And now when X is 3, there are 2 integers available which are smaller than 3, 1 and 2. And so we have 2 choices. And when X is 4, we have 1, 2, 3, which are 3 integers available that are smaller than 4. And so we have 3 choices of selecting an integer smaller than 4, and so on. So now that's enough. In fact, even 3 rows were enough to see the pattern. So the number of ways of selecting 2 larger integers. So you see, even X was 2, this was 10C2. When X is 3, it was 9C2, and we see a relationship. 10 was 2 less than 12, 9 was 3 less than 12, 8 was 4 less than 12, and so on. So whatever the x is, we have 12 minus x combination. In the combination, we have 12 minus x on the top. So here we had 12 minus 2 because x was 2. Here we have 12 minus 3, 9 is 12 minus 3. So in general, it will be 12 minus x, and in the bottom, you always have 2. So it's 12 minus x combination 2 ways to get 2 integers larger than x. And then for the smaller, it's even more easy to see, because when x is 2, there was one way of selecting a smaller integer. When x is 3, there was 2 ways of selecting a smaller integer. So the ways of selecting a smaller integer seems to be one less than whatever x is. So x minus 1 ways to get an integer smaller than x. Okay, so basically okay, so then the next thing is that we are selecting 4 integers out of 12. That was the main thing we are doing, and there are 12C4 ways of doing it. So P of x was the probability of x being the second largest, second smallest integer. Okay, so that would be the number of ways in which x is the second smallest integer divided by the total ways to select 4 integers out of 12. And the number of ways in which x is the smallest, second smallest integer is the same as number of ways to get 2 integers greater than x times number of ways to get 1 integer less than x. Because for x to be the smallest integer, second smallest integer, 2 integers have to be greater than x, and 1 integer has to be less than x, and you know and means multiplication. So that's why we have a multiplication here. And we already figured out 2 integers larger than x can be obtained in 12 minus x combination 2 ways, and 1 integer smaller than x can be obtained in x minus 1 ways. And 4 integers can be selected out of 12 in 12C4 ways. So now the next step is to open these combinations by using the formula that n combination r is n factorial over n minus r factorial. And therefore, the 12 minus x combination 2 would be 12 minus x factorial divided by 2 factorial times 12 minus x minus 2 factorial. And then we keep this x minus 1. And the next step, we write this 12C4 in the bottom as its value, which is 495. And we simplify this 12 minus x minus 2 as 10 minus x. And now we have a 12 minus x factorial on the top and a 10 minus x factorial on the top. And you know the way to do it, such a fraction, is to open up the larger factorial till you get the expression in the smaller factorial. So I've now in the next step written the x minus 1 outside on the left. And I start opening the 12 minus x factorial, so 12 minus x, and then when I reduce 1, it's 11 minus x, and then when I reduce 1, it's 10 minus x, and now that exactly matches the bottom, so I stop here, 12 minus x factorial, 10 minus x factorial, I mean 10 minus x here and 10 minus x here, they cancel out, and then I combine this 2 with the 495, that becomes a 990, and so I'm left with x minus 1, 12 minus x, and 11 minus x on the top. And that ends up being choice B.